Mountain biking may be quite a young sport in the bigger picture, but in its short history it has given rise to some incredible characters, performers and athletes that not only stand out from the crowd, but also stand out when you compare them to the best of the very best. In the spirit of Retro Week, we've put together a little list of legends from mountain biking's past that have made a lasting impact. Whether it's racing excellence or innovations that have changed the sport, the world of mountain bikes has been affected in so many good ways by such great people. Missy was an all or nothing racer both on and off the track. Between 93 and 2003, she was one of the most successful and colourful downhill racers. She was downhill world champion in 94, took the World Cup overall in 96 and 97, and came second every year for the next 4 before retiring in 2003. Missy burst back into the limelight in 2009, or rather back into infamousy, when she was arrested for conspiring to possess and distribute 384 pounds of marijuana. After pleading guilty, she was sentenced to time served, 6 months house arrest, and she was under probation for 5 years. She had a short and amazing return to downhill in 2015, where she rode the Wyndham World Cup downhill race, which was amazing. Missy still rides today and now enjoys a more peaceful life in the beautiful mountains of North Carolina. Anne Caroline Chausson is one of the most successful mountain bike racers in the history of the sport. She still holds a record of most World Cup wins at 40, and between 93 and 2005 she won the Downhill World Cup overall 5 times and has 12 Downhill World Championships. On top of that, she has an Olympic gold medal for BMX, which she won in 2008. She went on to win a handful of Enduro World Series in 2013 and 14, rounding off her incredible career in winning style. Unfortunately, in 2015, she had to put racing aside after being diagnosed with ovarian cancer. After treatment, it seemed she was fully recovered until 2018, a small tumour was discovered in her thorax. Now, thankfully, she's recovered from the treatment required and is starting to enjoy her life riding bikes once again. In terms of racing, it's very hard to ever imagine anyone stacking up against Anne Caroline. In his day, John Tomac was a multidisciplined master on 2 wheels. He started off racing a BMX when he was 6 and became US national champion at 16. He found his way into professional road cycling, but in 87 he made the move to mountain biking. He took the cross country world championship title in 91 and was a runner-up for the downhill. He also got the overall World Cup win for cross country the same year. One of the things he was most famous for was his drop by Yeti mountain bike with Tioga disc wheel. In 1997, John brought his own brand of bike to the World Championship downhill race in Chateau Day and managed to take a silver medal. You can never write John Tomac off, and we never will, even now despite the fact he's living the life of a real cowboy on his ranch in Colorado, living the simple but hard life. Tomac is still racing, it's never too far out of sight because he's actually coaching his son Eli Tomac in motocross and supercross. Eli just happens to be one of the fastest motorcycle racers of the current era, so speed seems to definitely run in the Tomac family. Gary Fisher, another godfather of mountain biking. Gary Fisher started out riding and racing clunkers in the mountains of Marin County, California. Between him and Charlie Kelly, the term mountain bikes first came round. Gary and Charlie Kelly founded Mountain Bikes, the first company to manufacture mountain bikes for a larger market, with Tom Richey welding the frames. That company closed in 1983, however was followed in the same year by the creation of Gary Fisher Bicycle Company. He was at the forefront of mountain bike design throughout the 80s, and into 1993 decided to sell Gary Fisher bikes to Trek, but stayed on to help with the design. Most recently, we've seen him advocating e-bikes quite a bit with Bosch, saying they're the next big thing. He's still working for Trek and making sure he's at the front of any new innovation. No one has seen the likes of Nico before or since, with his ability to turn it to 11 on a single race day. Between 95 and 2002, he won every single World Championship bar one, where Mars Rockwell took the centre stage. Combine those with his Junior World Champs titles and that comes to an incredible 10 times. He also took the overall World Cup Series 4 times. Nico just had an unbelievable ability to turn it on when it was most needed and thrived under pressure. In his career, he defeated riders such as Steve Peat, Sean Palmer, Greg Minnaar, John Tomac, all incredible riders at the height of their powers. However, Nico just always seemed to have a little bit more. He's also got an amazing brain for the engineering side of the sport, and many of those bikes he rode, he helped design and develop. He retired from downhill racing in 2002, aged only 26, and turned his sights on rally car racing, entering the World Rally Championship and then the Intercontinental Rally Challenge. The mountain biking started to cool again, and he entered the inaugural Enduro World Series Championship in 2013 and continued to race until 2016. Nowadays, while he's still riding for Lapierre, as he has for many years, he's helping out with Adrian Day on the EWS races and helping Lapierre develop mountain bikes and e-bikes. Greg Hairball has a prestigious title of the first man to be crowned UCI Downhill World Champion, all the way back in 1990. You could say he was lucky that it happened to be held in his hometown of Durango, Colorado, but he was already a well-renowned racer in his own right before the inaugural World Championship. Greg was integral to the design of the first mountain bike suspension fork on the market, the RockShox RS1. Throughout his career, Greg was passionate about product testing and worked with Giro, Sunringley, RockShox and many others. He found his home with SRAM, however, and spent an incredible 25 years with them as a racer, product tester and eventually ambassador. After the quarter century at SRAM, Greg decided that his time as a product developer had run its course and that his ranch was in need of a good tidy, having collected a substantial amount of bikes. Trials legend that inspired the likes of our very own Martin Ashton. Hans Ray was a pioneering influence to mountain biking. He took the very niche discipline of trials that he had learned as a schoolboy in his native Switzerland and used it to make huge crowds of spectators and millions of TV viewers understand what mountain bikes can do. The visually exciting discipline was perfect for showcasing this new style of bike in the early 90s, and Hans was to become the pin-up boy for the sport, appearing on TV shows not only as a stuntman but even as himself in the bike version of Baywatch Pacific Blue. Hans has worked with GT bikes the entire time. To this day, he's still their most famous rider globally. He's also now recognised as a true mountain bike adventure rider and has taken his bike riding to all corners of the globe, including the jungles with Steve Peat, volcanoes with Thomas Fishnet, or even summiting Mount Kilimanjaro with Danny McCaskill. The biggest legacy Hans has created, which has changed people's lives, is his charity Wheels for Life. He runs a charity with his wife and creates funding for the purchase and delivery of bikes to parts of the world where transportation like bikes can make a huge difference to the lives of so many. Dubbed the godfather of freeride, Wade Simmons was there at the beginning of the movement at the North Shore in Canada, and to this day still continues to send it. In 2001, Wade was the first winner of the inaugural Red Bull Rampage. So after such a hard-hitting start at mountain biking, perhaps you'd think he's relaxed the two wheels a bit. Well, yes and no, you won't find him hucking to flat anymore, but you will still find him in the woods, smashing laps or going on sick adventures around the world. He's still very much part of Rocky Mountain Bicycles as well as Raceface, both of which were side by side at the beginning of the freeride movement. There's a handful of godfathers of mountain biking, but there's one that actually made the first bike, specifically designed for mountain biking. That man is Joe Breeze. His first prototype was made in 1977 and was called the Breezer 1. It was modelled off an old balloon-tired Schwinn bike from decades earlier and featured the iconic middle strut tubing that went from the head tube all the way to the dropouts. He rode it to victory at the legendary Repat race, which also happened to be its maiden voyage. The first bike is now actually displayed at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. Joe also became one of the founding members of the National Off-Road Bicycle Association, or NORBA, and was always at the forefront of mountain bike advocacy. These days you can find Joe helping out at the Marin Museum of Mountain Biking, where it all began, as well as helping out with designing and engineering at Breeze Bikes. Tom Richey was at the beginning of it all and was side by side with Joe Breeze and Gary Fisher making the first mountain bikes in the world. Tom was the muscle behind the first mountain bike company with Gary Fisher and Charlie Kelly. As a teenager, Tom started out in road racing, and it was during this time where his dad taught him how to weld and repair frames. He built his own frames after not too long and began winning on them. But mountain bikes were where he really left his mark. In 1979, he went out on his own, making mountain bikes under his own name, Richey Designs. 40 years on and he's still building. Richey has expanded his designs to encompass road, gravel and mountain bikes, making forks, handlebars, stems, pedals and a host of other components. Tom established one of the most respected companies in mountain biking. Today, he's still owner and director of product development, which further highlights his creative ideals. Since the beginning of World Cup cross-country racing, the Swiss have made their mark, and the first to do so was Thomas Fishnet. His off-road cycling career started in cyclocross and moved into mountain biking in the 90s, where he took the World Cup overall title in 92, 3 and 95, as well as becoming world champion in 96. After this, he set his sights on longer challenges, and in 2003 and 2005, he was marathon world champion. One of his biggest accomplishments, however, was not his own racing career, but that of nurturing others. He's the team director of the Scott SRAM cross-country team, and under his guidance has achieved much greatness. It helps he has racers like Nino Schurter and the newly crowned champion Kate Courtney to work with, but it takes a strong mind to make these things work, and it seems like Thomas Fishnet has exactly that. Okay, so there's some legends of mountain biking and what they're up to now. Hopefully you've been enjoying Retro Week. Keep your eyes peeled tomorrow. We've got a documentary about the history of mountain biking where we visit a few of those names, Charlie Kelly and Gary Fisher and Joe Breeze over in the Marin County Museum. If you want to see the Retro Bike Challenge from earlier in the week, click over there for that one. Give us a thumbs up if you like all things retro and subscribe if you haven't done already.